Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I trust you're looking forward towards Easter. And I noticed some ladies outside the church on Sunday with some palm fronds. And I forgot Easter was so close. The year has really sped by. Macro thoughts. This is the currency performance for 2018. And this is from David Inglis. The Philippine peso, one of the worst performing currencies in the world. It's only done better than the Venezuelan bolivar, which is a Hunter S. Thompson situation, the Angolan kwanza, where they've been trying to narrow the unofficial and official spread, the Argentinian peso, the Mozambique new metical. And this is equity indices year-to-date rankings. Note to Ghana, top of the heap. Home thoughts: Sahara desert dust cloud blankets Greece in an orange haze. This photograph is from Sky News. And I go back to that book I read about the Sahara, in which it said on any given day, a third to half of the dust drifting through Miami comes not from the local beaches, but from Africa. The book is called Sahara, Life of the Great Desert, and it talks about opportunistic pathogens hitching rides with the dust. This is a thick blanket of dust from the Sahara covering Crete's airport, so pretty extraordinary visuals. A silverback mountain gorilla sitting in a clearing in Rwanda. This is from Will B.L. And finally, to quote again David Yarrows, who quoted John Donne, nature's great masterpiece, an elephant, the only harmless great thing. And this is of an elephant in the Amboseli. And they walk like ballet dancers, you don't hear them. Political reflections, and it's still not absolutely confirmed, but it seems the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is visiting China. This is a short video clip of his entourage. It's a surprise visit to Beijing on his first known trip outside North Korea since taking power in 2011. Speculation about a possible visit by a high-ranking North Korean official circulated around the Chinese capital Monday after Japan's Kyodo News reported that a special train may have carried Kim through the northeastern border city of Dandong. Nippon TV showed footage of a train arriving Monday in Beijing that looked similar to one used by Kim's father, Kim Jong-il, to visit the country shortly after his death in 2011. The US appeared to have no advance knowledge of Kim's visit. White House Deputy Secretary Raj Shah told reporters on Monday that he couldn't confirm reports of the trip, and we don't know if they're necessarily true. 18th of September, I wrote that piece, "As Screaming Comes Across the Sky." He was in a testing phase in Pyongyang at that time, and I was quoting Gravity's Rainbow. But in it, I also said one of those myths is that Xi Jinping, with some cajoling, can be made to effect a clean break with Pyongyang. Consider that Pyongyang is a buffer state between China and the US, and that Pyongyang is in fact a near-perfect geopolitical attack dog. The attack dog is not on a Chinese leash, but it's surely aligned with a resurgent, rising China, whose aim is to surely eject the US and its allies from what it considers its sphere of influence. Just take a look at the South China Sea, where the US and its allies have largely capitulated, and the US is now left performing some half-hearted and quite forlorn FONOPs once in a blue moon. North Korea, by lobbing those missiles over Japan, is seeking to prize Japan away from its US alliance, something that China is surely trying to achieve as well. When you look at geopolitical alignment, it is entirely unlikely that the West has anything to offer the Chinese that can compensate them for the loss of their hinterland, their buffer, and their instrument of attack. 28th of August, I was writing about China rising, and I said Xi Jinping's OBOR program binds the world to Beijing because all the roads and railways have but one destination, and that is China. Interesting piece in Bloomberg, Kim Jong-un and John Bolton learned very different lessons from Libya. The last remnants of Libya's nuclear program were loaded onto an aircraft in 2009 and shipped out of the country, part of a US brokered deal with Muammar Gaddafi to disarm in return for sanctions relief. 2 years later, NATO-backed rebels brutally killed him. And that is the lesson that Kim surely has learned. If it is such an implausible demand of North Korea that you set yourself up for failure, Lindsay Ford, Director of Political Security Affairs for the Asia Society Policy Unit in Washington, said of Bolton's proposal, if that is your negotiating strategy, I don't see any path to success, which seems to me the fundamental paradox at the heart of this proposed summit. Over scallops and lamb, Theresa May shared intelligence detailing the poisoning of a former Russian spy on British soil. Trump expelled 60. Putin is poised to respond in days. International reaction to nerve agent attack plunges the relationship between the Kremlin and the West into crisis. The decision to throw out more than 100 Russians working under diplomatic accreditation by 21 countries is the largest such expulsion since the end of the Cold War, and plunges relations between the Kremlin and the West into one of the worst state in recent history. The most surprising punitive move, however, has come from the US, which accounts for the bulk of those expelled. 60. Russia's foreign ministry called the expulsions a provocative gesture. Skripal's poisoning, which Britain said employed the Soviet-era military-grade nerve agent Novichok, is the first known offensive use of a nerve toxin in Europe since World War II. I agree with this. In the seesaw world of British politics, Prime Minister Theresa May is on the way back up, buoyed by international support for her stand against Russia. This is a mistake for the name. Assad forces close in on last rebel-held bastion in Damascus. And, the signal really was the president with his phone camera as he drove through Damascus to eastern Ghouta a couple of days ago. The fall of eastern Ghouta is inevitable and will return some level of normalcy to Damascus, allowing business activity to pick up and reconstruction to begin. The regime will leverage the wind to reinforce its narrative that government forces have momentum and most definitely neglect that large parts of the country are under de facto Turkish or American control. I think Assad has won, but his adversaries would prefer to try and keep him bleeding. Look at this interview in Singapore. Facebook, Simon Milner is having a bad day at a Singapore hearing. And the quote that caught my attention is national interest. National interest. This level of intrusion into interference is not in the national interest of Western democracies. That's why I called it, it's a major crisis. My piece over the weekend was about why you should sell Facebook. I said Facebook shares have tumbled 13.885% since Friday, March 16th through Monday morning, which equates to a $74.65 billion slide in its market cap, which clocked $463.03 billion as of Friday's close. The price rout is the worst since July 2012, the year of Facebook's initial public offering at $38 a share. Interestingly, out of the 43 analysts who recommended buying Facebook, not one has downgraded the stock. I believe the share price is headed to at least $150 a share. We hit that yesterday. And that the man in the hoodie, a hoodie is a sweatshirt with a hood, Mark Zuckerberg, is hopelessly behind the curve. Facebook shares were below $150, down another 6% yesterday. That's down 23% from their peak on February the 1st. I actually said that you should sell it early in the week, last week, so the profit, but let's stick with my article. Taiwan scrambles jets as China's Air Force holds drills near island. Chinese are putting a lot more pressure on Taiwan. China was sending an unspecified number of fighter jets, bombers and transport aircraft to the West Pacific Ocean via the channel which lies east of Hong Kong. Taiwan jets followed the aircraft until they returned to base, the ministry said in a statement. I said Taiwan might well have a geopolitical role to play, as a geopolitical dagger pointed at China, especially given how much ground has been lost to China in the South China Sea. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar has been on the up, 124.68. Dollar index nearing 89, 89.05. Japanese yen, 105.65. Swiss franc, 0.9444. The pound, 142.11. The Australian dollar is at 0.7727. India rupee, 64.815. India rupee, 64.815. South Korean won, 1068.10. Brazilian real, 331.16. Egyptian pound, 17.6560. South African rand, about which I've been bullish and said to buy at around 12, and we popped above there, and we're now back at 11.6590. Dollar index, it's losing ground. This is a 3-month chart. I'll stick with the 88 stock for now. Euro dollar, we're headed back towards resistance, 125.60. That's the place to sell it, so I'll wait. We're currently at 124.68. Bitcoin rebounded above the 8,000 level in Asian trading, but we're back below now. We're at 7,900. Doesn't feel too good. Now, big news coming out of Abraj. According to Bloomberg, they're considering the sale of a stake in their fund unit to raise cash. Founded by Arif Naqvi in Dubai in 2002, the Abraj Group is one of the largest buyout firms in emerging markets, with their operations across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Turkey. It bought Oreos Capital in 2012 to expand into Africa and Latin America, and acquired a North African private equity fund the previous year from Amundi SA. Only 20% of Abraj's portfolio is now in the Middle East, according to the company. Then the Wall Street Journal turns it up a notch. It's saying that they're seeking a buyer for the private equity business. I'm skeptical that maybe they're just testing the market, but I'm skeptical that they need to do that at this point in time. According to the Wall Street Journal, Abraj executives are exploring a sale of the firm's private equity business. People familiar with the matter said, as the Dubai-based company faces mounting pressure from some investors who are investigating whether their funds were misused. Company representatives have approached Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, including Abu Dhabi's Mubadala and Abu Dhabi Financial Group, about a possible sale. Manoj Nathani tweets, Abraj Dubai could implode any minute. Senior executives have quit. Assets are on fire. Sale doesn't bode well. And of course, they have a number of assets here in the Kenyan market, including Java Coffee House, which is this, which they bought for over $100 million in between the elections last year, which is quite a bold step. General Electric is now smaller than Netflix, would you believe? Oil trades above $65. We're last trading at $65.60. That's all about the renewed geopolitical premium coming from the appointments of Ambassador John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. Gold, 1355.38. That's moved up in inverse proportion with the dollar moving down. Ethiopia opposition activists have previously displayed the national flag without a star as a sign of their anti-government stance. The government has rearrested opposition activists who had been previously released. The only thing they tell the prisoners, the comrades, is, why are you using this flag? They said nobody can enter into the police station and we will tell you after we investigate them. I just cannot see the hardcore letting up, and I have a good friend who's now based in Addis as an ambassador who said the same thing. Angola to charge ex-president's son in a $500 million transfer. Angola's state prosecutor plans to charge the son of former President José Eduardo dos Santos with fraud for allegedly transferring $500 million from the country's central bank to the London branch of a Swiss bank, MFM radio reported. José Filomeno dos Santos, the former head of Angola's sovereign wealth fund, had his passport seized and has been forbidden from leaving the country. The Luanda-based broadcaster reported, citing Luis Benzazanga, the deputy state prosecutor and head of the National Directorate for Criminal Investigation. Dos Santos will be charged with money laundering in the case that draws in 9 other people. Angolan prosecutors have also named former central bank governor Walter Felipe da Silva, and I had a friend who actually had a meeting with him, described to me that he had this most extraordinary, most expensive Rolex watch he'd ever seen, as a suspect in relation to the alleged $500 million transfer from the central bank, according to the broadcaster. I think over the past couple of months, the new president has demonstrated both the willingness and the ability to clean up the political environment in Angola, ridding it of nepotism and corruption. He's sending a message to say, if I can go after the Dos Santos family and friends, I can go after anyone. 2nd of January this year, I said I like what I'm seeing in Angola. I did also say that the devil is in the detail of the execution, but I was promoting the idea of buying Eurobonds. 19th of February, in a wider article about Southern Africa, Ramaphosa, Mnangagwa, and the Angolan leader, I was talking about the wind of change. Interestingly, even after the sale of a small stake in Tencent, NASPA's Tencent investment is worth $159 billion. Its market value is $121.1 billion. We've obviously got to look at how to fix that. The Rand traded as high as 1164, which is its firmest level since February the 27th. That was on the Moody's reprieve, and actually a slight upgrade. In fixed income, the yield for the benchmark government bond due in 2026 dipped 10 basis points to 789. South African all-share has been underperforming. That's down 5.59% year-to-date. Dollar versus Rand, my target remains 11. We're currently around the 1166 level. Explored the old part of Cairo today, old mosques, a citadel, and some madness due to the election in between. There's a tweet I saw on a lovely photograph. 60 million eligible voters have a choice between the incumbent and a little-known candidate who has previously expressed support for the incumbent. It's quite farcical, really. Nigerian all-share up 8.4% year-to-date. Ghana's central bank cuts policy rate to 18%. Ghana Stock Exchange, the best-performing stock market worldwide, up 27.78% year-to-date. DP World wins a 30-year Congo port concession. This is the DR Congo, which is interesting. And Carlos Lopez, who I follow on Twitter, says this: Dubai Ports is developing a dot strategy in the African coast. Control one port facility in less than a day shipping time from the next. A real web netting the continent. Bolloré is scared, but what about African operators actually controlling their ports? Governor Patrick Njoroge, here the governor of the central bank, told Quest means business there is scope for reducing expenditure and increasing revenue. We also need to strengthen institutions. Have a look at this video from Channel 4's Lindsay Hilson. Kenyans bombarded with fake news in presidential election. It's a video. And then have a look at this 2-second video, the capture of Miguna. There's all kinds of drama at the airport. If you really want to know what happened, have a look at this thread, 11:02 p.m. local time in Emirates. EK 722 from Nairobi to Dubai is delayed. Reasons are unknown. It's all to do with Miguna, but if you click on that link, you'll get the whole story. Air France resumed flights to Nairobi after an 18-year absence. 4th of December, I wrote about how Emmanuel Macron gave France back its mojo. And yesterday I attended a lunch at the French embassy to celebrate the return of Air France. On their return after 18 years, sitting on my left was Sebastian Nikosh of Kenya, who's been a long chat. going to do an interview in short order with him. Bamburi Cement has reported full year earnings per share slumped 68.56%. Full year turnover was down 6%. However, total operating costs were up 4.817%. Operating profit was down 47.1%, 4.229 billion. Investment income was down versus the previous year by 59%. Finance costs were up 182%. Profit before tax down 50.236%. Earnings per share down 68.56%, 4 shillings and 54 cents, from 14 shillings and 44 cents last time. Final dividend was 1 shilling and 50 cents versus 6 shillings last time. Total dividend is 4 shillings versus 12 shillings last time. So dividend payout down 66.66%. It's going to trade down bigly today. Cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year was just 2.04 billion shillings versus 6.972 billion the previous year. They said turnover decreased by 2 billion following lower sales in Kenya due to contracted market. Uganda sales were broadly flat in both domestic and export markets. Operating profit reduced from 8 billion to 4.2 billion due to lower revenues and higher energy prices. 1.8 million tons of cement capacity expansion in Kenya and Uganda is on course. Soft earnings, and it's now a very expensive share at a price earnings ratio of 40. This is a statue of Jesus overlooking Lodwar town in Turkana County, celebrating the Catholic Diocese of Lodwar, which was started in 1961. This graph shows how Britam has been underperforming the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Interesting graphic from Nation Newsplex about CII leading in death rate. Lamu residents are most likely to be murdered. That's a worry. That must be to do with the Al-Shabaab. Nairobi all share eased off a record high. It remains up 11.82% year to date. NSE 20 is up 3.21% year to date. Centum is going to pump 1.1 billion shillings into Sidian Bank. Apparently they're chasing the trade finance niche where they're getting some traction. And he did recently make some sales and cashed out, so obviously he was getting himself ready to pump that cash into Sidian. I think it's the right decision. You need better capitalized banks in this new environment. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I am deeply grateful.